I welcome everyone back. I call this meeting to order. So welcome back to meeting number 54 of the House of Commons Standing Committee on Public Safety and National Security. We resume once again acknowledging that we are meeting on the traditional unceded territory of the Algonquin people. I myself am calling from the traditional unceded territory of the Kwakwitlam people and the shared traditional territory of the Katzie, Tsleil-Waututh, and Stolo people who have called this land home since time immemorial. Today's meeting is taking place in a hybrid format pursuant to the House Order of November 25th, 2021. Members are attending in person in the room and remotely using the Zoom application. The meeting is public. So pursuant to Standing Order 106 sub 4, the committee commenced consideration of the request by at least 4 members of the committee to discuss their request regarding the need to rehear witnesses on the proposals contained in Amendment G4 to Bill C-21. I remind everyone that our last meeting on December 13th, 2022 was suspended, therefore no new notice was published and distributed. The debate on December 13th was suspended on the amendment as amended, moved by Ms. Dancho on the original motion of Christina Michaud. The text of the amendment and where we are in the sub-amendments was distributed by email yesterday afternoon. I see Mr. Mohammed, you have your hand up. I believe you have a point of order.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. On a point of order, I'm going to seek unanimous consent of the committee for the following motion. That in relation to clause-by-clause consideration of Bill C-21, an act to amend certain acts and to make certain consequential amendments, firearms, Amendment G4, currently under consideration by the committee, be deemed withdrawn, and that Amendment G46, which has yet been moved, be deemed withdrawn from the package of amendments. Just to be clear, it is not our intention to move Amendment G46.
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
I'm sorry, whose point of order is that?
Mr. Lloyd.
Mr. Lloyd, go ahead on your point of order.
Seeking guidance from yourself and the clerk, is it admissible to move a motion on a point of order? I don't believe that is allowed under our committee rules.
Strictly speaking, to move a bare motion on a point of order is not allowed. However, he's asking for unanimous consent. As you know, we can do many things with unanimous consent that we couldn't do otherwise. So it is up to the committee whether or not to give such consent, and I ask for that determination at this time. Is it the will of the committee to grant unanimous consent to the request by Mr. Mohammed? Do we have any?
Mr. McGregor would like to speak.
Mr. McGregor, please go ahead on this point of order.
Could Mr. Nur Mohammed just read it into the record one more time? Just the point of order. It blanked out the last part of it. I just want to make sure I'm getting it clearly.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Happy to, and just to be clear, because Mr. Chang would have done this, but his his headset is not working, so I just wanted to make sure that's also stated. So it reads as follows, that in relation to clause-by-clause consideration of Bill C-21, an act to amend certain acts and to make certain consequential amendments, firearms, Amendment G4, currently under consideration by the committee, be deemed withdrawn, and that Amendment G46, which has not yet been moved, be deemed withdrawn from the package of amendments. It is not our intention, as I noted, to move Amendment G46.
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
Given
the, am I recognized?
Ms. Dancho,
Thank
go
you.
ahead on your point
Given
of order,
the
please.
significance of this amendment and the impact on, several million people in Canada, I would ask that it be provided in written form and translated and hard copy to all members of this committee immediately. And if that's agreed to, then we will provide unanimous consent from the Conservatives.
I believe that's possible. Mr. Clerk, if you, I wonder if you could arrange that.
It's possible. I just need to receive it.
Okay, and Ms. Dancho, do you require that distribution to occur before we can have the decision on unanimous consent?
Just a commitment that it will happen in the coming minutes.
Very well. I understand that is in progress, and Mr. Clerk will follow through as soon as time permits. So is there, do we have?
Mr. McGregor would
unanimous
like
cons-
to speak.
I'm sorry, Mr. McGregor, go ahead on this point of order.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I do have a copy, and I appreciate the clarification, just so my understanding is G4 and G46. So I definitely am prepared to give my consent to that. As members of the committee know, I was going to also move a motion today to refer this matter to the Speaker to get a ruling on the admissibility procedurally of these amendments, but I appreciate the Liberals taking this step, and I will give my consent to this motion. Thank you.
Ms. Denshaw would like to speak.
Thank you, Mr. McGregor. Ms. Denshaw on a point of order, followed by Madame Michaud.
Thank you
Ms.
very much.
Denshaw?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And I just wanted to put on the record what we're talking about in case those watching and impacted by this are not entirely familiar what we're talking about. It's a bit of inside baseball when we say G4, G46. So just very in short order, G4 was the amendment brought forward by the Liberals that created a new a firearm that would have been a definition of a firearm that would have been prohibited, notably the semi-automatic rifles or shotguns with magazine capabilities of greater than 5 cartridges. It also, in essence, would codify the May 2020 OIC definition of prohibited firearms, notably 20 millimeter bore diameter and firearm capacity of 10,000 joules or greater. G46 notably would have codified every prohibited firearm that has been prohibited really over the last 30 years. As well, it included building on the May 2020 OIC, it included about 400 new models added to that list, along with a number of other firearms that did not fall under the May 2020 definition, but were added to the list nonetheless. And again, that was the amendment that was several hundred pages long, with several hundred models of firearms that were newly banned, in addition to those who have been banned in the last number of decades. So, just to be clear to those who may not have the inside baseball information of what G4 and G46 was. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Dancho. I'd like to further clarify your clarification that G4 wasn't proposing to prohibit weapons that were capable, or firearms that were capable of taking larger magazine, but those that were designed originally to accept larger magazines. Anyway, I believe we have, I'm sorry, Madame Michaud, go ahead, please.
Merci, Monsieur. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I thank my colleague, Mr. Noor Mohammed, for his motion. Those amendments were problematic. We've said it from the beginning. The Bloc Québécois is always in favor of prohibiting military-style assault weapons, but I think those amendments went beyond the scope of the bill. So we're always motivated to work in collaboration on this bill, which has to do with handguns, but I think it's always helpful to hear from additional witnesses so they can tell us how we could proceed for a prohibition of ghost weapons, for example, and perhaps military-style assault weapons, maybe outside of this bill because it goes beyond the scope. So I would indicate my collaboration, and I look forward to resuming the study of this bill after having heard from additional witnesses. Thank you.
Merci, Madame Michaud.
Thank you, Ms. Michaud.
Seeing no other interventions on this point of order, I would ask if I'm sorry, Madame Dancho, go ahead.
I just have a clarification of how the rest of the meeting is going to roll. So if the clerk and the chair can weigh in, and perhaps other members if there are any other plans. And again, Conservatives just found out about this shortly, like minutes before the meeting was scheduled to start. So we're just processing the magnitude of this as well. So Mr. Chair, I just have a comment or a question for clarification, and then just a follow-up comment. So if this is moved, this UC, if we all provide UC and the Liberal motion to withdraw G4 and G46 is passed, that would mean that G4 would be completely withdrawn and that G46, the long list, would not be moved at any point. So that's a correction, that's a clarification I need. And then following that, my understanding is we would return to the debate on the 1064 motion brought forward by, I think, Ms. Michaud originally to call for witness testimony. Last meeting, which was quite a long time ago, but we were debating, Conservatives wanted 20 meetings and travel. There was a lot of back and forth, and I believe we settled on a sub-amendment to my 20-meeting amendment from Mr. McGregor, who said 8 meetings and travel. So just so I'm clear, if this passes, it's withdrawn, G4 is withdrawn, G46 will not be moved. We resume debate on witness testimony of those very amendments that are going to be withdrawn. And then we will resume that debate of what those meetings would look like, if any. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, irrespective of whether this unanimous consent motion is carried, the meeting today is to carry on the debate that we suspended back in December. And we will continue where we left off. As mentioned earlier, the current state of affairs on the amendments as the motion as amended, as sub-amended, has been distributed to everyone. Once we finish this point of order, we will resume that debate. Mr. Mohammed will have the floor, followed by Madame Damoff, followed by Madame Michaud, followed by Mr. Badaway, if he were here, followed by yourself, Ms. Dancho. That's where things are. Where this debate goes at the end of the day is really up to the committee. So I will ask at this time if there's any dissent on the.
Mr. Chair, I just had mentioned that I wanted you to come back to me after you answer my question.
Okay, fair enough. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I went through the speaking order. So after this passes, it's to the Liberals on several. It's several Liberal speakers, and then I believe you said Christina, and then back to the Conservatives. Is that correct? That's correct. Okay.
Yes, we are continuing the speaking order as it was at the time we suspended the meeting.
Right, and we have about less than an hour to do that. Is that correct? You're not speaking.
Yeah, we have to. We will be impinging on question period if we don't break early, I believe.
So it's you.
If necessary, we will have to suspend again. But in any case, if we can get moving on this amendment or Mr. Nur Mohammed's unanimous consent motion, then we can proceed into the body of this debate as before. Is there any further intervention on Mr. Mohammed's point of order? Seeing none, I'll ask if the committee is in agreement with Mr. Mohammed's point of order. I'll ask, I believe, if there's any dissent, if there's anyone who does not give consent to Mr. Mohammed's unanimous consent request. Please indicate. Seeing none, I believe that we have unanimous consent as on the motion as moved by unanimous consent motion as requested by Mr. Nur Mohammed. Thank you all. So, as said, the text of the amendment has been distributed. The text of the motion, as amended by Madame Dancho, as further amended by Mr. McGregor, has been distributed. Mr. Nur Mohammed has the floor, and followed by Ms. Damoff, followed by Madame Michaud. And I don't believe Mr. Badaway is present, but if he were present, he would come later, and then Madame Dancho. So, having said that, I give the floor to Mr. Nur Mohammed to carry on the debate on the motion before us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I just want to wish everybody happy return back to nice, warm Ottawa. I want to just say a couple of things, and then I'm going to stop talking. But I do want to draw attention to a couple of things. When we talk about the withdrawal of G4, which has now happened, it's important to know that references to ghost guns were in that amendment, and I really do hope that we can find ways through our conversations over the next little while to bring that back. I know we had unanimous support for it. It's an important piece for us to get right. Law enforcement demands it of us, requires it of us, and in order to keep Canadians safe, that is the type of thing that we really should be doing, and I know that we can get that done together. So I just want to put that out there, something that I know is a joint objective for everyone on this committee. You know, we have had a long history in this committee over the course of over the session of working together to solve problems. And, I want to read something that I said on December 13th, and it was that we have a track record in this committee of getting stuff done together. And in order to get this bill right, Canadians need to know that we heard them. And it's important for us to hear those voices that have not been heard and to hear some of those voices that were heard in the past. We have to get this over the finish line in a way that respects victims, but also respects hunters, farmers, Indigenous communities. And so I really hope that through the conversations that we're going to have in these additional meetings, that we find ways to bridge these gaps together, and that we remain committed to finding the right solutions for Canadians. The important thing here is to make sure that we get information from others that have not been heard to get this right, to make sure this is done in the right way. And so I am very hopeful that we'll be able to work together to achieve that, to make sure we do pass responsible legislation here that has a positive impact on the lives of all Canadians. In respect of that, we had been having conversations about the number of meetings, and I know that je connais que notre collègue.
I know that our colleague, Ms. Michaud, has a motion as well that she will be moving.
Going to stop talking now so that we can get to hearing Madame Michaud's proposal on how we might move forward. So I am going to stop there, and thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Nur Mohammed. We go now to Ms. Damoff.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to cede my time to Ms. Michaud.
Okay, Madame Michaud, allez-y.
Ms. Michaud, go ahead, please. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I think at this stage, it's very relevant still to hear from witnesses we haven't heard from on this bill. So I'll propose a sub-amendment to the amendment that was already on the table that was moved by Ms. Dancho to my original motion, that 1064. So I'd like the amendment to be modified so that we replace 8 consecutive meetings by 4 consecutive meetings in the first paragraph, and deleting the words, and that these meetings include travel of the committee across Canada as soon as possible to rural, northern, and Indigenous communities to hear from those affected. That's from the first paragraph as well. So everything I just read would be taken out. And then another amendment to replace the words for 4 hours in the third paragraph by for 1 hour. So you will be receiving this as I read it. It would be that the committee temporarily suspend the clause-by-clause study of Bill C-21 and that it allocate 4 consecutive meetings to study the effects of Amendments G4 and G46, that the committee invite to testify the witnesses and experts that it deems necessary to hear in order to answer the questions raised by the new concepts added by the amendments G4 and G46, and that the committee proceed according to the usual routine rules for the invitations of the selected witnesses, that upon completion of the testimonies, the Minister of Public Safety appear for 1 hour before the committee resume its clause-by-clause consideration where it had been suspended, and proceed according to the usual rules pursuant to Standing Order 75 of the House of Commons. So that's the version that you received, but we can also amend it. I'm proposing it like this, but G4 and G46 will be withdrawn, so we could withdraw the references to them. So and just say, study the content of those amendments, or I'm open to your suggestions, but we can also just leave it as is in the amendment.
Merci, Madame Michaud.
Thank you, Ms. Michaud.
I believe the amendment is in order, and so we carry on debate on Madame Michaud's original motion, amended by Madame Dancho, as further amended by Mr. McGregor, and is now under the sub-amendment of Madame Michaud. So that's where we are. Do we have anyone who wishes to,
Mr.
to
Lloyd,
speak to this
Ms.
motion?
Dancho, and Mr. McGregor.
I'm sorry. Mr. Clerk, I'm sorry. That was Madame Dancho followed by Mr.
I
McGregor.
have Mr. Lloyd first, Ms. Dancho, and Mr. McGregor.
I just have a point of
and Ms.
order of
Damoff.
clarification, and then a comment when I'm on the list,
Okay.
if I may.
Ms. Dancho, point of order.
I believe the original speaking order, I think we're down to you, Madame Duncho, but I think now that we have a kind of a clean slate here now on this
Right.
sub-amendment. So I believe, did you want to go ahead of Mr. Lloyd?
I just have a point of order clarification on the sub-amendment,
On a point of order, please.
if I may. So just so I'm clear, the amendment will provide, the sub-amendment, so I have two things. The sub-amendment is proposing 4 meetings, no travel, specifically for the purposes of inviting expert witness testimony to provide feedback on the amendments that were just unanimously withdrawn, G4 and G46. So that's my first question. Is that correct?
I believe that's correct. I think the intent here is to examine the concepts that were contained in those, and so that
My
they
second
can be
question.
examined further.
Thank you very much. I just wanted a procedural, but my understanding, unless Mr. McGregor withdrew his sub-amendment, my understanding is you propose a motion, you can amend and then sub-amend, but you can't sub-amend a sub-amendment. Or did I miss something?
That is correct, except that Mr. McGregor's sub-amendment was passed, so it is.
Oh,
so we are back to a point where we are dealing with an amendment of your amendment. Sorry, we're dealing with a sub-amendment of another sub-amendment of your amendment.
Okay.
So we're not amending the sub-amendment, right? Anyway, okay, carry on, and I believe we go to Mr. Lloyd, please.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair, and quite a development this morning on this issue. I don't think a lot of us were expecting what happened earlier, and I'm pleased that my colleague from the bloc still sees the value in having meetings, because I think one thing that we've seen throughout the past couple of months is that this is a wide-ranging, impactful piece of legislation, even though these particular amendments have been pulled, and that there were communities of interest that were not, specifically I think of Indigenous First Nations, Métis, Canadians, as well as like the fur trapping community. So I will be pleased to have an opportunity to bring back witnesses, expert witnesses, to talk about things that we're still dealing with in this bill and the general impact of this kind of legislation on a very important part of Canada's heritage and current part of our economy as well. So I guess my question would be, if we could get it answered, is the 1 hour versus the 4 hours. Are we talking about 4 consecutive meetings of 1 hour each? Just seeking clarification on that one point. And then on another point, should this sub-amendment pass, are we planning on starting these meetings immediately at our next scheduled meeting on Tuesday? And given that we have a weekend, Monday and Tuesday, so only a few days away, will there be an opportunity to get a witness list and give our witnesses time to plan to be here to speak to this legislation and the amendments? So those are my 2 questions out of the gate, and I know we have a speaking list. It's not a back and forth, but I'd be interested in hearing the perspectives on how we're going to move forward on this. Thank you.
So I'll jump in here. The logistics of what happens if we pass, depending on what amendment we end up passing, will have to happen once we figure out what we're doing. In the event that a motion of the kind we're talking about here does pass today, then I would probably propose a deadline of, say, Tuesday evening for witness lists. And then we'd have to figure out what to do on the following meeting day, and then propose to start witness testimony the following week. The clerk needs time to contact the witnesses in any event, and to arrange technical support, and of course witnesses would need time to deal with that. Anyway, I believe your intervention is done, Mr. Lloyd. So we'll go on. I believe.
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
On a point of order, Mr. Lloyd.
There was just one additional point that I was seeking clarification on, is the 4 hours versus 1 hour amendment. I don't know if you, Mr. Chair, had any clarification on that.
Well, my understanding of the amendment was that instead of 4 hours being allocated to hearing from the minister, there would be 1 hour for hearing from the minister. That is my understanding. I am prepared to stand corrected if anyone wishes. And I believe next we have Mr. McGregor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I guess first of all, thank you to my Liberal colleagues. Amendment G4 and G46 had really derailed any kind of progress that we could have made on C21, and I've never seen such a groundswell of opposition come really from everywhere all at once. I think there were some big questions about its procedural admissibility of, expanding the original scope of the bill. But I think with today's development, we can get back to some constructive dialogue at looking at the original C21. If you look at the package of amendments we still have to go through, we still have a lot of work ahead of us. And I agree with Mr. Nur Mohammed. We absolutely have to get ghost guns right. We know this is an increasing problem for law enforcement. But there's also some really important amendments that we have to, debate and hopefully pass with respect to the yellow flag and red flag provisions of the bill. We know the airsoft community is waiting patiently as well. When I agreed to the 106.4 meeting, of course, we were at that time wondering about Amendment G4 and G46 specifically, and that's why it was important to have, in my opinion at the time, 8 meetings and travel so that we could get consultation, the consultation that we weren't able to have as a committee. So with them being withdrawn, I still think it's going to be valuable for us to have additional meetings that might help flesh out some of these concepts for us. And so I will agree with what Ms. Michaud is proposing. And I think for Mr. Lloyd's benefit, the reference to the 1 hour was, that's amending the original part that is in specific reference to the minister. So rather than 4 hours with the minister, it's to 1 hour. So I think we're kind of arriving at a consensus here. So I will leave it at that, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. McGregor. So I have on the list that has been passed to me by our honorable clerk. I believe we have Ms. Demoff, followed by Mr. Nur Mohammed, followed by Mr. Motz. So Mr. Demoff, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to my colleagues and in particular Ms. Michaud for bringing this forward. I think I like your timeline, Chair, in terms of witnesses, and I think it would give us the opportunity next week at a meeting that we could have on Tuesday to finish off our Russia study, which we probably all forgotten where we even were with it. But if I recall, we only had about an hour or two left to be able to finish that. And then we could listen to organizations put forward from all parties to make sure that we're listening. We hear you. We think that it's important to get this bill right. There's a lot of really good things in the bill C-21. But I think, even the gun lobby has made comments about what is the definition of a military-style assault weapon. I'd like to hear from people with suggestions on that. Is there a way forward to make sure that we're getting this right? So I think this is a big step forward, and I think we need to be listening to each other. I hope Canadians are heartened listening to the conversations around this table where all 4 parties are agreeing to work together and cooperate and actually listen and hear each other. So I can't guarantee we're going to agree on everything moving forward, but we certainly are agreeing on where we are today. And I again thank Madame Michaud for the changes, and in addition to the changing to have the minister come for 1 hour, because I think that's adequate for where we are. So thank you to everybody.
Thank you, thank you, Ms. Demoff. We go to Mr. Nur Mohammed, followed by Mr. Motz. Mr. Nur Mohammed, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just speaking to Madame Michaud's sub-amendment, I think it's I think the change in respect of the time with the minister from 4 hours to 1 is important. This is about hearing from Canadians. I know the minister would love to come and spend 4, 16, or 32 hours with us, as he is wont to do. But this is about hearing from Canadians. And as Ms. Damoff said, we have to do this in a way that gives comfort to hunters, to Indigenous communities, to sport shooters, to the airsoft community, but also to victims, to also those who have been victims of gun violence, to make sure that we come to this in a way that gives everyone some degree of satisfaction, not only that they've been heard, but that the process that was followed is a good one. And Mr. McGregor and I have had many conversations about this. Process is important, and doing things the right way to make sure that we can solve the problem that we are trying to solve for in a thoughtful, considered manner is what Canadians deserve. And, my hope is through the work that Madame Michaud has proposed in the sub-amendment, we will move a long way down that road. As we've said, there are provisions that we know we can all agree on, and it's important for us to find the time and the space to do that. We're not going to agree on everything, and that's okay. Nobody expects us to agree. If we all agreed, there would not be a government in an opposition. But it is important to make sure that we hear those points of views from the folks that we disagree with on both sides of this conversation. And I had said earlier that I and we were committed to doing this properly, doing this right, getting this right, and doing it in a way that respected people's rights. And I remain committed to that, and I know we all remain in this room committed to that. My hope is through these conversations that we bring forward witnesses that will share thoughtful, meaningful perspectives, that we try to make this process as non-partisan as possible, because what we are trying to do is consequential to the lives of Canadians in a variety of different ways. And at the end of the day, it is about keeping our streets safer, our communities safer, about making sure that we don't create hardship for people. And I want to make sure we do this right. I want to make sure that we as a team, all of us, do this in a way that whatever the outcome at the end, that we can all look and say the process was a good one, that the conversations were meaningful and fruitful, that whatever side of this debate that you're on, that people felt that their voices were heard and well represented in these conversations. And I do think that if we can do that, we will end up with good legislation that may not fully satisfy everyone, but satisfies the expectation that Canadians should have of us, of being able to deliver good quality public policy that may not always be perfect, but that is very, very strong and very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nur Mohammed. We go now to Mr. Motz. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the comments. I think it's important that Canadians understand. I just heard Mr. Nur Mohammed, and I trust that he was genuine in moving forward on this bill. But we need to look back as to why we had this in the first place. It's because the Liberals did exactly the opposite. They failed to respect people's rights. They failed to consult Indigenous people. They failed to consult with farmers and hunters. They failed to do any of that, and they tried to push some legislation through that didn't go through the debate in the House at all. It was didn't get studied at committee. It was thrown in at the 11th hour during an amendment and clause by clause phase of this bill. So I think Canadians they will not forget that. But I do hope that there is no iteration of any what was in G4 other than ghost guns, and G46 that comes back under C21 again, because Canadians where I come from and across the country, I've heard from thousands of them. They have lost trust in this government on this issue and many others. I personally, I trust. I mean, I believe them. I believe these people. I see for myself that I have. I struggle with trusting the motivations behind what comes out of this government's legislation. If we're talking about true public safety, then I don't think there'd be any opposition on in this committee on matters that actually make a difference on public safety and target those who are committing our crimes in our country, namely criminals who smuggle their firearms in and use illegal firearms, not those who are law-abiding and Canadians' law-abiding firearm community. So as we go back into C21, I'm hopeful that we will keep in mind the sport shooter community and the airsoft communities on some of these amendments that have to happen. And that, as you said, Mr. Nur Mohammed, that there is a spirit of cooperation and that we have on this committee moving forward on that. The other thing that I'm struggling with is why we wouldn't want the minister here for one meeting, for a 2-hour meeting. I don't think an hour is enough. He's had a significant amount to play in this, and it's reasonable. It's reasonable that he come to explain why we find ourselves in this spot, why that was even promoted or pushed forward in the first place. G4 and G46. I don't hold fellow committee members from across the way in contempt because of it. They're doing what their party asked them to do. But I think the minister needs to answer for what happened and why G4 and G46 were put into this bill at the time that it were. And the last thing that I would add is I do also support the idea of making good use of our time Tuesday and Thursday, and until we can get witnesses here to continue on with this study, to use the Russia study, as you said, Ms. Damoff. I think that would be an appropriate use of our time. I think we're going to be hard-pressed to get the witnesses that have to be here in 4 meetings. There's a lot of them who on all sides of this issue, and I think there'll be some great witnesses that we need to hear from. And I'd personally like to see more than 4 meetings, and certainly 2 meetings with 2 hours with the minister, not 1. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Motz. We go now to Mr. Lloyd. Go ahead, please, sir. Mr. Lloyd is not there. So do we have any other speakers? Mr. Shipley?
Sir, Mr. Shipley, where am I?
Mr. Shipley, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair, and it's nice to see everybody back after our long absence. But it has been a relief to see what's taken place this morning, because when I was back in our riding, I heard a lot about C21. I was just talking to my staff this morning with the number of emails we were still getting about it. But I do have multiple questions as to how we got here. I'm happy we got here. Don't anybody get me wrong. But there must have been some, light went off over the holidays or a moment of realization. Mr. Nur Mohammed discussed before we came in today that he went and got his pal. I hope that's not a secret, Mr. Nur Mohammed. I'm breaking your bubble on you, but there it is. Maybe you learned something in there, or maybe you heard from the hunters in that room as to how happy or unhappy they were about this, because I was certainly hearing it day in, day out. So good for you for educating yourself on that issue. But I also know that the minister did a large cross-Canada tour discussing with many hunting groups. I saw many of his pictures. Looked like he was definitely dressed up for the weather in many of them. And I read some of the clips. I don't think he was received incredibly warmly at all his stops. It sounds like he was perhaps getting a bit of an earful. So I agree with my co-member here, Mr. Motz, about the 2 hours to have him in, because I'd like to hear some of those discussions he had. We talked about doing a Canada tour. Our members opposite weren't too keen on that, but your minister did that for us, which was interesting because before Christmas we were all told that the tour would not be beneficial. So it was interesting to see the minister do such a large tour as the exact same things that we wanted to do. So once again, it's nice to see we're here today. It's nice to see this getting taken out. There'll be a lot of relieved hunters and farmers, not just in my area, but across Canada to see this. But I do believe we do need to have the minister here for 2 hours. 1 hour just isn't enough, and we can see what can happen with time this morning. You know, we had problems getting set up with our equipment. That could easily turn down to about a half an hour. So, Mr. Motz, you mentioned it, but I think we need a sub-amendment. You didn't put it in a sub-amendment, did you?
Not yet.
You want to do that? Oh, okay.
You can supplement.
As a matter of process, we can't, we are in a sub-amendment. We can't do another sub-amendment at this time.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, at that, then I'll concede the floor, and I think Mr. Motz has some more things to add, too. Thank you.
Yes, indeed. I have Mr. Motz again on my list, so please go ahead, Mr. Motz.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'm just, as a matter of curiosity, so is it, hold on a sec, just let me get my note here. So when we left in December, Mr. McAllister from the NDP proposed a sub-amendment. Mr. McGregor, sorry, from the NDP. I did it again. Sorry. Changed the amendment to 8 meetings. All right? So the committee made a decision on the number of meetings. Now, this new sub-amendment seeks to change the committee's previous agreement on the number of meetings. And I'm just wonder if the clerk or the chair can rule on that, of whether this sub-amendment is actually in order, given that it's we already agreed on this back on I think it was on the 13th of December or somewhere around there.
I'll be happy to. We passed the Mr. McGregor's sub-amendment as said. However, time has gone by and events have gone by. In any event, this is a substantial amendment. It is in order, as I've already ruled on that. We can sub-amend, one by one as long as we want, providing we can't do repetitive things over and over again, but this is not such a case. So it is in order, and I see no further speakers on the list. Are we prepared to vote on this amendment?
Seems yes.
Okay, so seeing no further speakers, I guess we should call the roll on this amendment. Mr. Clerk, if you would please.
Okay, so Mr. Chiang.
I'm sorry, Mr. Clerk. What were you saying?
It's now the question is put on the sub-amendment moved by Ms. Michaud.
No.
Yes.
Ms. Damoff.
Yes.
Mr. Kair.
In favor?
Mr. Noor Mohammed.
Yes.
Monsieur Chifke.
En favor.
Mr. Lloyd.
No.
Mr. Motz.
No. Just the amount of minutes too long.
Mr. Shipley.
No.
Mr. Martin.
No.
Mr. Shields, sorry. Madame Michaud.
En faveur.
McGregor.
Yes.
4 nays, 6 yeas.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. I believe the amendment has passed. Are there any further amendments to this motion as multiply amended? Seeing none, I think that concludes our business. I'm wondering, although, if the committee, I believe the amendment.
Point of order, Chair. Point of order.
Go ahead on point of order.
So we voted on the sub-amendment. Do we not have to vote on the actual motion as amended now?
You're quite correct. I thank you for your intervention. So yes, Madame Michaud's amendment has passed, and if there is no further sub-amendment, we now go to
Right now,
we
we
go
would be
to
back to
Miss Dancho's amendment as amended. So so basically, Miss Dancho's amendment is superseded fundamentally by this sub-amendment. But anyway, we do have to go through the form and vote on Ms. Dancho's amendment as sub-amended. So do we
Mr.
have any
Mutz,
further
point of
interventions on
order.
this?
Sorry, Mr. Chair, point of order. I'm just, for
Go
clarification,
ahead on point of order.
yes, can we have an understanding that the minister comes at the very end of the witness testimony? Would that be appropriate?
It's in the motion.
It's in the motion?
It's at the end of the.
It says before we, oh, yeah, upon the completion. Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay. Okay, so seeing no further interventions, I would ask the clerk to call the roll on Madame Dancho's motion as sub-amended by, at this point, Madame Michaud. Mr. Clerk, if you would please.
Mr. Chang,
I vote yes.
Ms. Damoff. Yes. Mr. Kair,
In favor?
Mr. Noor Mohammed,
Yes.
Monsieur Chifke,
Oui.
Mr. Lloyd,
In favor?
Mr. Mutz,
Yes.
Shipley,
Yes.
Mr. Shields,
Yes.
Madame Michaud,
En faveur.
Yes.
all yeas. Mr. Chair, all in favor.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. It seems
Mr.
that we
Lloyd,
are hurtling towards an agreement here.
Mr. Lloyd,
So we
and
now
Ms.
have Ms. Damoff, I believe you have a point of order?
I've seen Mr. Lloyd and Ms. Damoff.
Mr. Lloyd on a point of order? Or, sorry, it doesn't have to be a point of order because at this point we're open to, we are back to, we have passed Ms. Dancho's motion as amended by Madame Michaud. We are back to the final vote, and I guess if there's any further discussion on where we are, go ahead, Mr. Lloyd.
No, I cede the floor time. We're at the final vote right now. We're doing another vote? No, okay.
That is correct, if there's no further debate. Madame Damoff, did you have an intervention?
Sorry, Chair, we're finished with the vote. Now I wanted to talk about what we're doing moving forward, deadline for witnesses, finishing the Russia study.
We have one more vote. We have to vote on the original motion as multiply amended.
Okay, my apologies.
Okay, so as we kind of unwind ourselves from this bunch of amendments, so we do have this final vote. So the final vote is on Madame Michaud's original motion as sub-amended and so on and so forth, to the point where we just passed all the sub-amendments. So anyway, I believe, Mr. Clerk, if you could call a roll on this, I believe we can wrap this up.
Donc, Mr. Chang,
I vote yes.
Ms. Damoff. Yes. Mr. Kair,
In favor?
Mr. Noor Mohammed,
Yes.
Monsieur Chifke,
En faveur?
Mr. Lloyd,
In favor?
Mr. Mutz,
Yes.
Mr. Shipley,
Yes.
Mr. Shields,
Yes.
Madame Michaud,
En faveur.
Mr. McGregor,
Yes.
all in favor. All in favor, Mr. Chair. You can go ahead.
Thank you all. So we seem to have reached a resolution on this matter. So thank you all. So at this point, I propose to the committee that you all have your witness lists available to the clerk by, say, close of business on Tuesday. And I would ask Mr. Clerk to do his best to arrange our first witness testimony on this matter the Tuesday of the following week. That will give roughly a week for the witness list to be sorted through and witnesses contacted and necessary technical matters undertaken. I thank you all. That kind of remains. So on Tuesday, I would propose that we will finish up the Russia study. That leaves Thursday of next week kind of in the air somewhat. And if there's any suggestions for what we should do on that meeting, I would appreciate it. I see Ms. Demoff, you have your hand up. Please go ahead.
Thank you. It's Friday, actually, not Thursday. But we did talk about having the correctional investigator come to talk about his report. If we have an extra meeting, if we get the Russia study, which is obviously our priority, but if we do finish that on Tuesday, that might be an option. And I would have to go back and through my notes to see what we were thinking of doing prior to getting into C21, but I think we did have, I know that was one of the things we talked about doing.
Thank you. That's a helpful intervention. Is committee in favor of doing so? I think it's going to depend. If we get back to the Russia study on Tuesday, we should carry on until we finish it, even if that is as on Friday. But on the meeting on Friday, if available, I suggest that we follow Ms. Demoff's advice and carry on with that other matter. Is the committee in agreement with this process? I see a lot of thumbs up. So that being the case, I thank you all for your patience and steadfastness in carrying us all through this. I know we all have some passionate viewpoints on these matters, and I appreciate you all sharing them with us. With some vigor and enthusiasm, and thank you all. So that being the case, we are adjourned.